Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming over for this session. And thank you, Eric. Thank you, Improving, for giving me a chance to talk here. Actually, my family doesn't let me talk. So I thought, okay, I'd better come here and talk all that I want. And I'll have a bunch of people who would really be interested in listening to what I have to say. So I have been at the core, if you ask me, I am an engineer right from the core, meaning any problem, any pain, any problem you give me, I'm like, okay, how do I solve this in the best possible way? Not in the best technological possible way, but the best possible way, the cheapest possible way, the most ROI on anything. So that has been my goal right from the beginning. I mean, I was trained that way. My father was an engineer, so that thinking goes about with it. So I have been in the IT industry for over 27 years now. The last 11 years, I have been in leadership positions, and I've been a director level position last 11 years. I have been in automation. So RPA automation, that's like my home to me. So I did everything RPA, right from designing, deploying, development, and everything. Saved my last company $3 million in a span of three. Good question. RPA stands for Robotic Process Automation. And in short, that is if you have a process that involves a human actually intelligently reading something or grabbing some piece of data, entering it in another application, clicking some buttons in that application. You know how usually processes are: take data from one application or read from one application, put in the other. All that can be programmed in a workflow that can run all by itself. So that is robotic process automation at the very basic level. It does a lot more than that, but that's the basic crux of it. So I've been in RPA automation, and recently then I also went into intelligent RPA or IRPA. And intelligent RPA is when you actually have some intelligence built in, when some computer will actually read, gather intelligence. I'm going to actually show you a demo, an example of that very use case. So that'll be another interesting thing. All right. So I just had this up. I was like, okay, whoever has come with their laptops, and if they want to follow me, if they want to just follow the way that I'm going, you might want to be logged in openai.com. If you don't have a login, I would say, please go make yourself a login on openai.com. If you have never been there, I'm sorry, but you are living under a stone, really. Under a rock, seriously, because that's where ChatGPT is, right? So here's the other part of it. With ChatGPT, ChatGPT, of course, is the free one. 3.5 was we all know it, right? But there's ChatGPT 4. For accessing ChatGPT 4, you need to buy a paid version. The paid version is like $20 a month. It's called Plus membership. I'll tell you what, it's totally worth it. Worth every penny of that $20 a month. And very soon we'll see how exactly it is worth it. Right? So that's the reason why I said log in and create a login. If you want to buy Plus membership, please do that. You can cancel it anytime. But I know it. You will not cancel it once you get it and once you know how to use it. And that's what we'll be doing today. So it's got a lot of advantages. We will be going over those. So today I'll be covering prompting. Actually, prompting is quite different from Google searches. We are all used to Google searches. We have all been there, done that. Google searches, we have kind of like mastered it, right? But this is beyond that. I'll be showing you a tool that will help you create those prompts. And I'll be talking about custom GPTs. This is an unknown area. It was introduced in November last year, and ever since, it's progressed a lot. And you can do a whole lot of things with custom GPTs. And that's where I'll be showing you some examples, some use cases. And there is something called custom AI assistant. That is another thing on steroids, kind. So we'll be dealing with that too. And of course, oh, actually, I put this in the end, introducing AI model Simba, but I want to go ahead with him before we get started. The one on the left is my pet dog, Simba, and I call him the new AI model. Why? Because my son has been training Simba. Believe it or not, he has been training Simba. I actually tried to put in a video here, but I don't know if it'll play. But he trains Simba like, Simba, sit. Simba, what is 1 plus 1? And Simba doesn't bark. He doesn't like to bark and respond. He just gives his paw, and he'll give it twice. Absolutely wonderful. So far, Simba has these capabilities. Can you believe this? He can calculate 1 plus 1. He can calculate log of 100 to the base of 10. He can actually do it. He can do square root of 4, a mod of square root of 4, cube root of 8. He can do 1,001 minus 999. Now, all of you must be wondering, like, what does this have to do with artificial intelligence? Well, if you notice, all the answers are the same too. And that brings us to the simplest explanation of training bias. This training was biased, right? Just to give an answer to. And what does this cause? Hallucinations. Because once we ask Simba, okay, what is 1 plus 3? He's still going to be 2. Because he knows just 2, right? This is training bias. And this is, anyway, it's important that we know this before we get started off with the actual GPTs and everything else in custom prompting. So I just wanted to give you guys an idea. Hope you guys liked it. Okay. So, like I said, GPT is not Google. GPT is different. It's altogether different. So we will be doing actual sample and okay. So I am sure that all of you have actually seen this interface, right? Anybody here who hasn't seen this? Great. We're all on the same page. Oh, you haven't seen that? I would urge you to do that. This is like, this will be life-changing for some of you guys. Trust me, it's going to be life-changing. So it was for me too. Okay. So as a side thing, I am a winemaker. I make wine at home. I brew beer at home. I love doing that. And so my example is, the first example is going to be with wine. Let's say, for example, I have some guests coming over for dinner, and I want ChatGPT to suggest me, make me wine suggestions. A simple thing or a straightforward thing would be, suggest me wine to serve for dinner. Okay, it's actually come back and asked the question, which is something that I wasn't expecting, because most of the times it'll come back and give you a generic answer. Let's change this. Let me show you the generic answer. Suggest me some red wine to serve for dinner. Oh yeah. Where's Russell? Hey Russell, can you help me increase the font size? Because once I connected this, my display is, I think, just as good as this one. Oh, great. There you go. And the brightness, unfortunately, cannot go higher, right? Russell? Okay, yeah, this is better on my eyes too. I was struggling. I was like, huh. Okay, so All right, look at that. Now here it is. It's come back with a generic answer. And you know, something, I'll tell you something. With Google searches, it's happened with between me and my wife several times that I've come up with better Google searches because I had realized within a few months or years that Google search actually looks for just some keywords. It doesn't take in complete sentences. So I would just give in some keywords and I'd come up with better search. On the other hand, my wife would actually write whole big sentences for Google search. And, I mean, that's just the way men and women are wired. Like, women are wired for more words and men are wired for like lesser words. So anyway, now we got to make that shift. All the men in the room, you got to make that shift into more words. And let's look at some of these things. Like for example, I I have some guests coming over. Ah, I will be serving spicy Indian dinner. Suggest me some wine. And now it's come up with some narrower soup, right? The result is a lot better, although it's not top notch. Let me tell you, being a wine connoisseur myself, and this is just mediocre kind of suggestion. Honestly, this is just very generic one that anyone could just throw. So if you really want to refine this and make this better, make it work for you, I have a magic formula for everyone. Okay. Now, this is a formula that I would say just learn it, memorize it. This one sentence that is pretty turtles can eat tiny fish. Okay. This is a mnemonic for these words, for this formula. The first part is persona, right? So, what it means is whenever you're asking a question to ChatGPT, give it a persona. Ask it some question, some way. Like, for example, in our case, let's say I say, you are a sommelier. Oh, I'm bad at spelling, so you're a sommelier. And okay, so that's the first part. Let's go on to the second part of the formula. It's asking for a task. What is it that you want ChatGPT to do for you? Well, we want it to make a suggestion, a wine suggestion, right? So I want you to make wine suggestion or suggest wine. Okay, let's go back again to our formula. The third one, now this is a very important part. That is context. It's asking for a context. And let me tell you, when it comes to context, all the men in the room, you guys should be thinking like women. When women talk to their girlfriends, they give context. That's why those conversations are long on the phone. Whereas men, we ended 2 minutes, like 2 minute conversations. No, Chat GPT wants you to be like a woman. Ask more, give more context. So let's give it some context. I want you to suggest some wine. I have guests coming over. I will be serving spicy Indian dinner, right? What else? Oh yeah, let's give it some more context. Let's give it a context of what exactly in dinner. So I will be serving uh, tandoori chicken for appetizers and uh, palak paneer and rice and roti for main course. You can even go in further detail and give it more context, but more more the context, the merrier it is. Because now what's going to happen is the model is actually going to narrow down your results. It's going to use your context. See, the key part in GPT is transformer, right? That transformer needs, it's got an encoder that takes in all your information, encodes it, passes on the encodings to the decoder. And the decoder is where the magic is going to happen to come up with your result. So the whole idea is give it more context as much as you can. And it doesn't matter. It's going to understand all that and come up with suggestions, right? So let's see the next one. Provide an example. You know, here's a good part. You can say, I like red wine or I like a particular kind of wine. I could make a suggestion saying I like sweeter wines. Okay. And then comes the tone. Now, here's another important thing. The tone is what is the output, expected output? What is the tone of the expected output? It could be that you are a novice wine drinker. You don't know things about wine. So explain me like I'm a 5-year-old. That's a very common line. That is what can go in the tone. Or tone can also be as good as the audience. What is the audience that you're referring to? Like, maybe this 21-year-old group who's just begun drinking, like that, with just legal age drinking. So you could give it a audience. All guests are 21 years or over, right? Although we can argue that that's actually a context and not really a tone, but yet. And the last thing, output format. There could be instances when your output, you want it to be in table form. You want it to be like have a left column, right column, and explain you exactly. We will come to those examples, but let's say this. And here are two other parts that I have marked with an asterisk. And first one is temperature control. Now, what happens is this is generative AI, Gen AI, right? It's going to make up things that it doesn't know. So there is this temperature setting. You can put a temperature that is, say, set temperature 0.01. So temperature ranges from 0 to 1. 1 being very creative. I'm giving you the liberty to be creative. Be as creative as you can. And more towards 0 is don't be creative, just use the training knowledge that you have. So you can set the temperature. And if there is one thing I want everyone in this room to go back home today and be very happy about, is this last one. Ask questions. Because this Gen AI and ChatGPT cannot really work in first shot. It's like asking a question. It's like going to a doctor and telling the doctor, hey, doc, I think I have a headache. And the doctor would be like, he can never come back and say that, I think you have brain tumor. No, sorry, that's not going to happen. He's going to ask you questions. So imagine this person or this generative AI, ChatGPT, is like a person. Right now, you give it a persona of a sum, right? So let's make it that way. So, and let's say, ask questions. Like, for example, ask me questions to generate a more accurate response. And that should be a good prompt, right? Yes. Yes, you can set it in text. You can just say temperature equal to 0.1, or you can say set temperature 0.3, 0.4. When the temperature setting really comes in handy is, let's say, for example, you say you are a poet and write me a poem about something. You can set the temperature to maybe 0.6 or 0.8. Let him be as creative as he is. Or if you're using DALI, DALI is like for drawing pictures, where it can actually create pictures. And again, just imagine if your prompt is going to be like, draw me Eiffel Tower, it's just going to draw a generic one. But you put in more depth to it. Draw me an Eiffel Tower with a couple under the Eiffel Tower kissing each other. Yes, that's going to be much more better. It's like put in whatever creativity you want to, you know. Let's see the output of this one. There we go. We have hit it. Now it's asking, I have a few questions. And these are the kind of questions, trust me, if someone were to ask me for a wine suggestion, these are the kind of questions that I would ask. Intensity or spiciness. So I would answer them you can answer them in a line too, or as a paragraph too, but I like to answer it like with numbers, with the same numbers in the same order. Intensity or spiciness. How spicy do you want to make tandoori chicken and palak paneer? The level of heat can influence a bit wine pairing. I would say I will be keeping the spice level at level 2. And I'll just explain it. Level 5 being max, and level 1 being very mild. Okay, so shift and enter will actually make you come to the next line. Otherwise, if you just hit enter, it's going to take that and again start generating some response. Preference for red, white, or rosé. Even though you mentioned liking for sweeter wines, do you have preference for red wine? Oh, let me say I have no preference. Oh, no, I did not intentionally leave it, but if it did, it'll try to make it up. See, the thing is that it's just like my pet dog Simba. If it doesn't understand something, it'll make it up. So it'll try to just make a guess or maybe whatever, you know. Guest preferences. Are your guests known to have particular wine preferences or aversions? This can help ensure that the selection is enjoyable for everyone. If someone is allergic, if you're asking for food, and this is where it's going to ask you for any allergies. So I can say no preference again. And number 4, dessert plans. Oh, wow. Okay. Um, I'm just going to keep it ice cream or. And number 5, budget considerations. This can help me narrow down. Oh, yeah. Not more than $1.40 per bottle. All right. And now let's see the response. Thank you for providing details, given spice level. There we go. You know, I always feel this way that it's very difficult to pair wines with spicy food. And these are my 2 top wines when I make recommendations. Riesling and Gewürztraminer. Both are German wines. They are kind of sweeter, not exactly too sweet like Moscato, but they're good. So here we go. Here are my recommendations. So I think it's like to go with cool dessert, especially with the ice cream. So you get it, right? The point that I want to make is that if your prompt is well formed, then you're going to get a better response. And beat with anything, anything. The one thing that I always like to begin my prompts with is a persona. Give it a persona. If you don't give it a persona, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult for ChatGPT to really get it, you know? Then he's going to be more and more generic. Yes, sir. You can do it. You can do it. You can play around with it. It's just that, you know, it's easier to remember this way, that the first thing goes is persona. And oh, by the way, that line, the mnemonic, pretty turtles can eat tiny fish, it's not something that I made up. Guess what? Who made it up? ChatGPT. I just asked ChatGPT that, okay, here are my words. I want you to make a mnemonic out of it. And there it is. It came with like 4 or 5 lines, different words, different sentences. And I like this one. I was like, okay, yeah, it's something unusual, weird, funny. So let me use this one. Okay, so now the next thing that I wanted to show, or rather demo, is the developers in the room. Have you guys tried using ChatGPTs for any purposes? Yes, Eric? For what purpose, if I may ask? Uh-huh. Mhm. Uh-huh. So what I wanted to bring up is developers. Actually, there was something that I read somewhere recently uh, that you know ChatGPT, or rather, ChatGPT is going to put developers out of work, kind of thing. I was like, wow, seriously? And that person had a very good point that ChatGPT is going to be able to write code. But of course, again, given the first model that we saw, Model Simba, do you guys believe that? Certainly no. Even if ChatGPT were to write a good program for me, I'm going to be scrutinizing it step by step and trying to get it right. So the one way to do that, if ChatGPT does write you a program, the number one thing is that you ask questions. Ask questions about the program itself. Explain it to me, and it will begin explaining that to you. Then the other thing that you would do is, instead of asking it like one shot, just give me this program, ask it in small parts and take smaller parts together. Because that is actually called chain of thoughts. So you ask smaller questions, it will give you a response, it will give you a response. I'll give you an example. Let's say, for example, some finance person trying to get the total revenue for year 2023. Instead of saying that, okay, give me the total revenue for 2023, and let's say, for example, the fourth quarter revenue has still not been done, it's going to make up something here and it's going to tell you. It's not going to say that I did not find quarter four revenue. So the way to do that is ask it, okay, what's the quarter one revenue? What's the quarter two revenue? What's the quarter three and quarter four? If you don't have it, tell me so. Now it's going to tell you that I don't have quarter four revenue. Or if it does find, then say, okay, now add them up. So that's a very well-known technique. Again, this is for you guys to remember. And I actually wanted to, is anybody following on their laptops? Oh, great, 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 great. So let's do this small exercise. Let's try with regex. Have you guys struggled with regular expressions? I mean, I have. Oh, you're the man. So I, and I tell you what, I have always struggled, meaning I've had to try it several times to get the right one. Even though there are several regular expression builders out there, testers out there, but somehow when it goes into production, it's with production data that it kind of just that one use case somewhere that it fails at. So let's say we want to write a regular expression, and let me check this. Okay. I am going to do a little bit right here. I'm going to pull out, oops. And I can put this in Slack. So and here we go. So that's the line. And what we want to do is write a regular expression to pull out the monetary values, the dollar values. Now, if you notice, There are some billion-dollar values right there. Oops, I'm not good. Okay, let me paste it here. Here we go. There are some billion-dollar values. Let's change one of them. Let's make it B instead of billion, right? And let's put in. So the first things first. What do we do first? The first thing that you need to do, tell ChatGPT, persona, exactly. So what could the persona be? So you are you are an expert regex programmer. Okay. Next, what is next? Pretty turtles. Turtles is task. What is the task that we want? We want you to generate a regular expression, right? Write a regular expression to pull out all the monetary values from the from given text, because we will be using it in other places, right? Okay, so pretty turtle scan context. What's the context that we can get? I I want to use this regex to pull out values from reports, right? So we got a context. So pretty turtles can eat. Example. Can we give it an example? We can say that, oh yeah, use this paragraph as an example. Use the text below as an example. Okay, so pretty turtles can eat tiny fish. Tiny is our tone. Do we really need tone here? Okay, by the way, the formula, you don't really need all the terms in there. So you can skip some. Like for example, tone, we don't really have a tone here. We can say, okay, skip that. Or, I have another idea. Explain the output or explain the generated regex like you would to a novice programmer. How about that? So we got a good tone, like audience. Who's the audience? The audience is some novice programmer, right? Okay. And the last one, format. Do we want a format? We can say, show me the explanation in table format. All right, so there we go. If you use this formula and if you just go over yourself with this formula all the time, let me assure you, you are going to hit it right most of the times. Not the first time though. First shot is a myth. Please remember that. First shot is a myth. And so, our golden sentence, what is that? Ask me questions to generate a more accurate response. Right? Okay, let's run this and see. There we go. It's actually made. Did you notice that? It actually came up with the code too. And if you notice, it's got B, billion, and million too. Wow. Now this is, it's going against the myth that I said, just said. First shot is a myth. Most of the times it doesn't work. But again, now what I want you guys to do is if you have your laptop and if you're working on it and if you've got it right, just copy paste that into maybe a regex builder or some tester and try it out, test it out. Should we go ahead and try it out? I don't have a favorite one. You tell me. regex101.com. Okay. And let's give it our, and right here somewhere, instead of billion, I just put in a B. That's not B. Let's insert the expression. What do you guys think? It's finding the word billion in isolation, is that? So the one thing that I want you guys to remember is that, okay, programmers are never going to be out of work because of AI. The only thing that is going to happen is the ones who don't know how to use AI may probably be out of work. The ones who know how to use AI, who know how to use ChatGPT, will still stay in work. This is in all seriousness. I mean, let me give you a little bit of background about myself more. The thing is that I have been out of work. I was laid off from my last company, and I've been looking for a job last 4 months. And I have some friends here who have been really, really looking out for me. And it's really a struggle because these days the jobs that are there are remote jobs, most of them. So imagine this: back in the days, maybe 10 years back, when I looked for a job at that time, I was competing against only the people in DFW area. It's no longer the case. So for a single job, if from DFW with the same kind of skills, if there were 100 people applying, today there are 10,000 people applying from all over the US. And some of them are even from outside of US. I don't want to go there, but that's but so that is the case though. So what happens is recruiters get like thousands of emails, thousands of resumes. They pass it through the ATS. ATS judges you based on your 2-page resume, and then comes back with 1,000 resumes for the recruiter to look at. Guess what happens? Is the recruiter going to look at it? Nope. The recruiter is not going to look at those 1,000. Who's the recruiter going to look at? At somewhere where your resume was put up in front of the recruiter by some other friend or by some network. So networking is very, very important these days. Actually, the reason why I digress to this topic is the next one that I'm going to pick up is related to this. Okay, and this will be very, very useful for almost all of us here, you know? Because at some point when we look for a job, you're going to find this tool extremely useful. Okay, before we actually go on to the job search one, I just wanted to say you can do the same thing with cron expressions. Anybody here dealt with cron expressions? I struggled with them like crazy. And I mean, there are some tools out there to help with cron expressions, but then the same story. It's like you have a nice cron expression and you think it's working, it goes in production, and then that one use case somewhere comes up and it breaks your cron expression. The job doesn't run, and guess what happens? The next thing you do is you're up in the night and your boss is on the phone with you. So anyway, let's go on to the next one, the next topic. So you guys, yeah. Mm-hmm. I believe so. Yep. Yep. Microsoft, Microsoft Bing also uses GPT-4. Yep. Yep. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there are a lot of things. Like for example, here, Bing also lets you use DALI, but then this is like, you know what? I'll answer your question with this next one. You'll be able to then appreciate why I would want to pay $20 a month to get this instead of having the free one with Bing or with Google. All right. So, uh, like I was saying, in my job search, here's a pattern that I followed for every day in day out. By the way, now that I don't have a job, my only job is looking for a job. I go on LinkedIn, on Indeed, and whatever job posting sites. I get jobs that really match my kind of skills at a larger scale. Then from the description, I try to look at what the requirement is, and then I go look at my resume, and I try to match up. Like, oh, they need an automation expert, UiPath certified. Oh, great, I have that. If they need some really good things in UiPath or automation or whatever, my thing is that when I'm writing a cover letter, if I'm writing a cover letter, I want the cover letter to be strong, to come across like, oh my gosh, this is the person that we were waiting for, and we need to interview him. It should be that way. When will that happen? Only when you mention in the cover letter that I brought about $3 million saving in my last company within a span of 2 years, deploying 32 automations. That is what will get me out there. Otherwise, everybody else is going to be the same one. And the recruiter is not going to go look through your resume too, through the first 2, 3 paras, and okay, it doesn't look like. Cover letters too, the same way. The first 1 or 2 paras you're going to read, that should be attention catching, right? So all the pattern that I followed, I would spend at least about 30 minutes every job posting to really come up with that thing. And then another 30 minutes to an hour preparing for the interview. Guess what? With ChatGPT, now all that can be done in less than 10 minutes. And less than 10 minutes is like max that I'm talking about. And I'm going to show you how you can do it. You can apply it to anything else that you do. Okay. So here's the magic. The magic happens when you buy a ChatGPT 4 on here. Here we go. Oops. Once you click on here on this left-hand side bottom, that's your user. Once you click on that button, it comes up with like my plan, my GPTs. GPTs are custom GPTs. They call them custom GPTs. Let's take a look at it. My GPTs, and I'm going to create a new GPT so you guys can actually see me create it. Okay, so here we go. It opens up this interface. Very easy, right? Okay, it's asking, hi, I'm ready to help you. You can say something like make a creative who generates visuals, whatever. Okay, I want to make a job application helper bot that will look at my resume and okay, here's if any of you are going to look for a job, remember this is something that I got from a career coach. Besides your resume, you should have a detailed document that does 3 things. All on your work, what we care about is what are the problems that you faced, what is the solution that you came up with, and what was the result. Make a document. This is called as PSR document, and make this document, have it ready with you. Actually, PSR, yeah. Actually, my career coach happened to be from Optomy, and he gave me this it's like a golden kind of thing, It helps me prepare for my interviews as well as prepare for anything. If the recruiter were to call me or if the hiring manager were to call me and talk to me, I have my talking points ready as per their requirements, right? So here we go. So I want to make a job application helper bot that will look at my resume and PSR, and I'm going to expand it for him because ChatGPT doesn't know about this. So problem, solution, result, document, okay, and the job description to come up with a cover letter. Now, what you can also do is you can, besides a cover letter, what do you think? What else do we need? Cover letter and what else? Um, oh, perfect. Introductory email and perfect. How much I fit the job description and talking points for interview, right? Let's begin with this, okay? So here we go. And the exactly. Now this is actually personalizing ChatGPT just for my purpose and my purpose of job search, right? That's a very good question. And I'll tell you why. Because now the model, you're telling it to refer to your resume and your PSR document, right? I'll show you shortly how to upload these documents in the model. The model has these documents, right? And every time you have a new job description that you want to apply to, you'll pull out the job description, paste it in. So now ChatGPT has your documents to go by. It's got the ability to speak in English and speak in grammatically correct English, understandable English, and put it all together for you. Right. The GPT-4 is pre-trained, right? But your documents are your documents. It's going to refer to your documents. I'll tell you, it is RAG. Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to come to. It is RAG. It is retrieval augmented generation. Mhm. So internally, it's going to be a vector database. And well, not exactly. It actually uses all your documents all the time. And every time you query it, it doesn't really keep it. It's going to refer to your documents and again do it. Uh-huh. Perfect. And I'm going to speak about that too. And that is the one that we're going to try the coding part of it with the Python code and calling it from Python code. And so, okay, so he's saying job application assistant. Does that name sound good for you? Yes. I believe now it's creating a profile picture. That's using DALI to create a profile picture for you. Okay, here's, okay, good. Do you like it or would you like any changes? No changes. Okay, let's refine functionality further. Now, if you actually notice, this is a very much interactive kind of thing. Create that bot. And so it's asking me, could you tell me more about what kind of advice and content you envision job application assistant providing? This will ensure it aligns with your needs. I would say assume the persona of a career coach. So that will be pretty much like all to do with your career, jobs, and right. Now let's discuss how it should handle interaction. Should it be more straightforward and concise, or would you prefer more detailed and explanatory approach to conversations? I would say straightforward. What do you guys think? Keep the responses. Okay. How about the tone of responses? Would you prefer a more formal tone that reflects traditional professional standards or something slightly informal yet still professional to keep conversation engaging? Well, for cover letters, I would want it to be slightly informal, right? For cover, like, one, two, tone, slightly informal. Okay. Isn't it cool the way it's asking intriguing questions more? It's trying to get more information, just like a consultant would, you know? Uh-huh. Right. Right. Just those two. Just those two. Yeah. Now, here's the thing though. If you were to make this GPT multimodal or something that would want help you to create pictures or maybe videos or something like that, then it's going to think more models. Uh-huh. It does. It does. Behind the scenes, it is. So understood. For cover letters, Java would use slightly informal yet professional tone. Would you like to try out Java application? Okay, now it's asking us to try out. Okay. Now, this is really fun because right now, because through my experience, I wouldn't go try it out at this moment because I know there are some things it's going to do really crazy. Let's go ahead and try those crazy things, and then you'll know why I'm saying that. Okay. Now for the next part, what I'm going to do is actually go pull out a job description. Oh, before that, I forgot about this. I have to give it my resume and my PSR document, right? So that is not, I mean, it is possible here, but I like to do it in the configure tab. In configure tab, it is more involved kind of thing. And if you notice the instructions, all the chat that we were having, it's put all those in the instruction right here. See, it's actually converted that in its own language and made these things. And here we go. See this? Upload files. And ChatGPT has this wonderful thing. It's got the capability of browsing, of web browsing, and it's got DALI image creation too. You can even have a code interpreter here, right? So here we go. Let's go upload files, and we are gonna go. Well, here we go. I have my resume, and I'm gonna do upload files and PSR now. There we go. And I'm gonna go back or configure. Let's save this. When saving this, you can actually make it public too. But I'm not going to make this public. It's only for me. I don't want everybody else coming in, getting information out of my resume for nothing. So here we go. I'm going to do only me and oops. Did I miss something? Oh, GPT name cannot be empty. Oh, okay. So let's give it some name. Uh, job helper. Let's call it job helper bot. By this time, I have several of those. Only me and confirm. Okay, now we are ready to try it out, right? Now let's do this. Let's go in a job description somewhere, and let me pick one that looks like pretty much. Strategic Solutions Director. Okay, let's pick this up. And I'm not going to pull out everything, but just some things here. Job description and job requirement is what mainly that I'll need, right? And let's come to ChatGPT. And here's a job description. And what's the magic? And just yes, yeah, uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. Yes, yes, it can do all of the above. It's possible to do all of those things. It can. This ChatGPT has the capability of calling it your APIs too. So you could have an API that could be called to send an email. So it's very, very flexible, versatile, and above all, it's kind of intelligent, artificial intelligent. So here we go. And it's got a good, kind of like, um, and California not mentioned is expertise. And oh, something that is not mentioned, it's pointed that out too. So, yeah, I could go ahead and ask a question like, does, no, I did not set a temperature. So let's ask this. So does his job, fit Microsoft? Any other, the next step, you could just say, write me a cover letter, and it's going to write you a cover letter. Now, the point that I was going to come to is why I wouldn't have stopped at that point, and I would have taken it one step further ahead. Let me show you. Write a cover letter for me. Oh wow, it got my address from my resume. And now you'll notice that the cover letter just goes on and on and on, right? Because honestly, it's got no real intelligence that, okay, so you have to tell it. So to tell it once again, you go back to edit GPT and edit GPT, and I would then have to say here that, okay, create, and this is the friendlier version, the create tab instead of configure. And I have to say that, keep the cover letter under 300 words. And it will make an adjustment. But I don't know how many of you are really thinking of use cases where you could use this. One use case for recruiters that I can think of is the reverse way. When you put your job description and any resumes that you get or cover letters that you get, you just pump them in here, and now you've got a summary. You can ask it to summarize the resume, tell me where it matches my job description and where it doesn't, or it fails. It's going to tell you that. Isn't that neat? I mean, it will be a better system than the ATS. I Yeah. Uh-huh. Possibly. Possibly, but that's where my complaints come in about. My greatest pet peeve is that ATS doesn't do justice, and it tries to judge person just by two-page resume. Honestly, I can write a resume that may not be human readable, but ATS will just pass it like that every time. I can do that. The ATS applicant tracking system that can pass it. If you just were to put, hashtags, I'm not saying hashtag, but just some keywords, make a word cloud, send it in as resume, and I guarantee you, someone's gonna call you back because they just found all the words, all the keywords. ATS is as dumb as any other system. I mean, as dumb as AI. I call AI dumb because we just saw how AI Simba can work. It's the same way. So now, if you were to ask it to write a cover letter, it's going to be shorter. Now, the other good part is for all those job seekers, you can go in there and you can ask, what are the most common interview questions? Guess what? It'll come up with 10 questions. Plug out each question, ask it that for my resume and for this description, what is the best response for this question? Boom, you have got a good response that's custom made for you. You'll find several websites out there that will give you a generic response saying, okay, you talk about your achievements, you talk about this, talk about this. This one is going to tell you, talk about this achievement for this question. Isn't that wonderful? And all this, once you have built it, it's a matter of just a minute or two. Just plug out a description, put it in there. Now, what I tried doing is giving it a link to LinkedIn job description. It did not run that way. It did not go well because LinkedIn requires to be logged in. So that is where it did not really go well. But if you let's say have APIs that need authentication, you can certainly do that. There's one additional, here we go. Create new action. And here is where you can actually give it URLs, you can give it APIs and API calls. So you can make those API calls get extra information. So anytime you ask for a question, it's going to go to that website or go to that API, make that call, get information, and incorporate that in its response. So how was this so far? Did you guys like it? Cool. Now, the next one I wanted to touch on is let's do one more quick one of a custom GPT, and then we'll go on to our next one because it uses some output from that custom GPT. So let's go once again right here, my GPTs, and once we're in my GPTs, let's create a custom GPT. Now, when in my last company, this was a use case, a real world use case. So had a lot of automation going on, and the automation was to do with calls that agents took, right? And agents used to receive these emails too from customers. And our customers were basically gym-going people and members of gyms and clubs. So several times, these members would send an email saying, oh, please cancel my membership. I don't want to continue anymore. And this was a very, very, I would say, a toned down kind of sample that I just told you. But there were several which were like, I'm not using your membership, and I this and this. It would be crazy. Anyway, so what would happen is once this ticket came in as an email, it became a ticket in the system. The agent would need to read that ticket, understand or pull out customer information from in there, like customer email address or customer membership number, and then go to a AS400 system. Then he'd get more details about the customer. And of course, if the agent then realized that this person is in a contract and he cannot cancel, he'd have a nice reply to send back. But anyway, if he was legitimately or able to cancel, then the agent would go ahead and cancel. So this process, they needed it automated. Now, this part of reading the email and getting all those details out from email, guess what? That needs intelligence, and that needs AI. At that time, when I did the solution, at that time, there was no ChatGPT 4, or rather, there was no custom GPT. So it wasn't done using this method, but this is a newer, faster method. Okay. So let's call it customer information um, uh, extractor, catcher, extractor. Okay. And let's give it a short description. Customer. Okay. And let's then go to create, and it's asking you what do you want to create. And I would say that I want you to be an intelligent agent that can read text and extract uh, the following data. Customer name, right? And what else? Customer email and membership number and phone number. The reason why I have 4 in there is because practically people mess out a lot of things. They don't give email address, or they'll give phone number, they'll give membership number or no membership number. And the agent doing it, or the bot which would automatically do it, would need at least one of these things to go look in the AS400 system. So, and so I want you to extract this information, okay, and provide me um, the extracted fields in JSON, right? Okay, and give also, oh, give the confidence level for each extracted field. All right. So, because if AI is not confident about something and it gives me that reply, if it falls below a certain percentage, like maybe below 80 or 85, I would say don't use it. Send it to a human for analysis, right? Okay. So uh, let's try with this. And message. Uh-huh. I've tried it. I have tried it specifically with examples like made a membership number that's exactly 10 digits. So it looks like a phone number. And I don't know how it really tries to get maybe by the first 3 digits, by the area code or something. It kind of figures out. But again, the confidence level is not that great on it. So it kind of distinguishes, but then, there are other factors in practical life. What will happen is you'll have phone number, you'll have membership number that are almost looking same, but then there may be an email that the bot can later on use. So bot, depending on what all information it has and what's the information confidence level, it can go with something else too, like with email address or with membership number, and it can see if both of them match, if both of them are the same person. If they're not the same person, it can just direct it to a human agent. So yeah, you'll need to build in this logic. Yeah. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Correct. Correct. That's right. That's right. Yeah. And oh, I did not show you. Let me show you. Let me come to that. Okay, to start, could you provide text snippet for me to analyze? Okay, now for that, I have some text here. Let me see. Oh, here we go. Let me pull this out. This is Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger. And let me get this. Not the entire email, but yeah, in real life, I would have those fields too, like the subject field and to and CC or whatever those two, just to make it a solid case. Yep. Right. All those, again, the way that I had done this previously is that all that was kind of stripped off and only the text part was sent to the API call. For that, I used Azure. And Azure, there's something called NER, named entity recognition. And that's the one that I used at that time. You had a question? Yeah. Uh-huh. Yep. Yep. That's what we're going to do next. That is exactly what we're going to do next. And this confidence level, if you see, it's just high, not available. Honestly, I like it in percentages. I don't like this high, medium, low because that doesn't tell me what exactly is happening. So I can just say report the confidence level in percentage. Yes. Yes, it does. And actually, when you go in configure tab, you'll see it's actually got all your instructions. And the beauty of it is that it doesn't turn that into something unreadable or human unreadable kind of thing. It keeps it still readable. See this? Now it's come back with our percentages. And if you see in configure, these instructions are nothing but the instructions to actually run it. And that's the part that we're going to use for an exact same use case next. So we have one here, customer information extractor ready. And let's go and firstly save it, only me, confirm. And to use it, again, to your point, sir, to use it, what we would do is right here, if you go to my GPTs, this was the one, right? Customer information extractor. If you were to just click on it, it will start this. And this is where the instructions are all ready out there. All it's waiting for is your input. It could be one of our emails, one of our sample emails. Let's see this, another one, which is a little bit angry customer. And just put that in. No need to give any prompts, no nothing, just the text, and that's it. There we go. We have our JC. Okay, yeah. Uh-huh. There, here, I haven't tried it myself. Honestly, there's so much to learn that, so much to learn ahead that there's really no time to playing around with what's there. I'm sorry. But, so I would certainly want to do that. But what I'm trying to say is that I've read about this. People try to hijack, or rather, just like SQL injection attack, they'll try to inject something to get information out. What are the instructions behind the GPT? This GPT right now, I wrote it. So you can see the instructions in configure section. But if you were to look at other GPTs, public GPTs, those instructions are not available to you. So you never know what is happening behind the scenes, really. What are the instructions that were written to get this GPT? So, yeah, to your question, one could try that, like an injection kind of attack. Anyway, so what I'm going to do next is before we go next, this custom GPT is only available through this UI. Doesn't that suck? I'll tell you, because I want to use it in my program. And in my program, how will I use it? Through APIs. There are no API calls to make to your personal GPTs. But here's the other twist. Instead of that, what you can do is, let me show you here. OpenAI.com, and I'm going to log in and see this API. Once you go on here, there's something here called assistants. Now, assistants are pretty much similar to your custom GPT. The big difference is that assistants are available as APIs. So now you can actually pull out the same instructions, put them in assistant, and there you have an assistant to do the same job, but instead of that, expose an API, right? So let's do this. I actually had previously made one, and it's using the same concept. These instructions that you see are the ones that I copied from my custom GPT. So just copy the instructions, put them in here, and there you go. You're ready to have, with a assistant. Okay, so the next thing is you can go to this playground. Playground is where you can actually play with it. Exactly like we saw previously with our custom GPTs, you can put in the message right here and run it. And there you go, your JSON, right? So how to get it to run via APIs, we will look at that. So all the APIs, first and foremost is you're going to need API keys. You need to actually make an API key, generate an API key, and then use this API key. So when you generate this key, when you click on create new secret key, it gives you the key that is the only time that you will see it. Copy it, keep it safe somewhere. And another thing is that right now, while I'm showing this, maybe that key will be exposed to you guys because I haven't hidden it. But as soon as we're done, I'm going to delete that key. And otherwise, just imagine this, someone might just catch hold of your key. And with that key, they'll be able to call APIs or call it via APIs. And API usage is charged. And this is separate from that $20 that you paid for the Plus membership. These APIs are called at the rate of some 1 cent for 1,000 tokens. And one token is about 4 words or something like that. It's pretty weird. You cannot count it by word. It's not like one word corresponds to one token. So there's some weird calculation. But 1,000 tokens, 1 cent is really pretty cheap. So once you create a key, what I would do is right here in documentation, you have API reference. And in API reference, by the way, the assistant is in beta version right now. And you have all the instructions for your APIs and how to call them. What I'm going to do is I have a Jupyter notebook that I can show you where I had actually called. Let's do this. Okay, and I'll okay, there we go. Is this better? Okay, so this is Python code, and I'll share my GitHub tool with you, so you'll be able to see this. So first and foremost thing to call it, yeah. Input as well as output. Yeah. So input for a regular one that I tried was some 300 something tokens for input, another 300 per, so about maybe less than a cent per call. But again, that depends. If your input token is too big, then you're gonna be being more than a cent. Okay. So the first and foremost thing you need to do for this is get actually install the Open API. And that is something necessary. I've already done that. But here's something. Now, okay, this is the API key that I was talking about. And even if this is being reported, I'm not worried because I'm going to delete it soon after. Okay. Oh. Okay. So the first things first is you may not have just one assistant, but several assistants. So the first call here that I'm going to make is for getting all those assistants. And with those assistants, we are going to get an assistant key, right? So here we go. I'll run this. Yes. Okay. So with the first response here, do you see this assistant? This is the assistant key, or rather the ID, assistant ID. So on this assistant now, you're going to create a thread. You need to create an empty thread. See, thread is just like in ChatGPT, you keep on giving it commands and instructions. It remembers what you're talking about previously. If you gave it persona once, you need not give it again the second time with your second prompt. If you call it a psalm in the first prompt, then the next one it remembers that it is supposed to be a psalm. So here we go. We create an empty thread, and we get a thread ID. Now this is again, come on. Okay. So now on that thread, you're going to create a message, right? So we'll replace this thread, the thread that we just created, which is an empty thread. And here's, by the way, here's the content of it. Here's the content, the actual content that you need to send in the text message. So that's the thread message, and here's the message ID. Now that thread ID, the next thing we need to do is check the status, because now imagine this, your token could be anything. The system could take time to actually process it and give you an output, right? So now we're going to check the status. And here we go. We will give it thread. And an assistant ID was right here on top, right? There you go. By the way, the assistant ID is available on your UI too. I could have pulled it out from there, and it's essentially going to be same as previously. So here we go. It's run, but now see this? See the status is queued. It doesn't immediately execute. I mean, it does, but there is some amount of time that it takes. And this response is like pretty quick. Now let's go ahead and check if it is complete. So for that, we need a thread ID. And let's go run this. And right here, around here, oh, by the way, I tried making this look pretty, but this output just wouldn't. Here we go. The status is complete right now. I tried using tprint, but for some reason in Jupyter Notebook, it just wouldn't format it well. And now let's extract the thread again. And this will give us a list of all the messages. And there you go. Do you see that? Angry Bee, confidence level 100. That is the member name. And membership number, value not found, confidence level 100, member phone number, and here's the phone value, and so on and so forth. And by the way, it also gives back this thread message. There's no reason why I should be a member of your club anymore, and blah 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 blah. But trust me, some emails would be crazy. And I mean, I've worked in a BPO. So my previous job, previous to ABC, was in a BPO. And I was there for about 7 years. I've done side by side with agents. And I have some crazy, crazy stories. Crazy stories. There was this once, what was that? The cable company, I forgot their name. Anyway, Spectrum or something like that. But there was this one woman calling, and she was like, "Oh, this bill is too ridiculous. Who is doing all this pay per view?" And then this agent had a hard time explaining her that someone in her household has been watching pay per views. And the woman, once she realized that, she began crying, and it was a whole big drama. And just imagine that when this happens, that agent is going to be dinged because he's really uh, the KPI for him is average handle time AST, and his AST is going to go down. Just trying to explain that there is a problem between you and your husband, you need to take care of him. So with that, I will finish my thing. I hope I'm on time, or I did not take too much. Thank you. Nope. You know, I mean, I really wish they did that. $20, exactly. But you could really do a lot of things with this, you know. I mean, all the tasks that used to take time. But of course, like I said, be cautious about just taking. Like for example, in my job search, I just don't take a cover letter and paste it out there and boom, send it out. No, I just read it before I send it because otherwise it's gonna hallucinate. It actually has at instances. I have seen some cover letters that said I have experience in something that I'm not at all experienced in. And I mean, this is before the GPT, but before custom GPT. And I had to tone it down. Like, no, no, no. You cannot be saying this. Temperature 0.1. Yeah. You know, I'll tell you something. I too learned it a lot from YouTube videos and such, and there was not a single one that covered everything. So it was like in parts, and most of them are like 10 minutes. 10 minutes is like long enough attention span. If it goes over about an hour, I'm like, I'm not watching this. Let me go see the 10-minute one. The only problem though, you need to pause it, see it. Sometimes it's so quick in going around that you need to pause it, look at it, and you have to try it. Yeah. Uh huh. Yeah. Yeah. I do use a lot of Udemy. Udemy.com. They have good courses. These are paid ones though, like $15, or sometimes they're in discount, and these are like $9.99. Pretty good. Yeah. Yeah. Uh huh. Mm-hmm. Uh huh. Uh huh. Uh huh. Uh huh. Uh huh. Cool. Uh huh. Uh huh. Uh huh. The smaller LLMs. Wow. Uh huh. Uh huh. Wow. You build up. Uh-huh. Wow. Uh-huh. Right. Uh-huh. Cool. This, or Autogen.ai, right? Oh, this doesn't seem like. Uh, uh-huh. Uh-huh. Cool. So here's another idea that I was going to implement because every day the first thing that I do in the morning is get on LinkedIn, and I follow a lot of people who post a lot of content on it, and it's like the latest and greatest. I was going to do a GPT that would go out on the internet, get the latest news for me, and give me those latest news, summarize those, and give it to me. So I can just read it and be like, oh, okay, I know what's out there, a new model, okay. So that's another use case. So what here you can think of? Oh, by the way, custom GPT takes 20 documents. If you're going over 20 documents, that's a little bit kind of mess, but 20 is more than enough. And Microsoft Copilot can do this too.